Hey, it's Thursday. One more day till Friday. It's a beautiful, blustery day out there. If you're new to California and you're from somewhere where it's really cold, you're going, this is nothing. But if you're in California, we get very excited because we can wear these clothes and feel like we're cold. We actually are. Our blood is very thin. It's a gorgeous day. Hope you'll enjoy it afterwards. I just want to do a little check-in with you. Has anybody been blessed by Elia and Gerald and Casey's music? Can you let them know? Not too much. They'll ask for a raise. Not too much. And if you've gained some concepts, been challenged, received a blessing from our speakers, can we let Ty and David know that right now? A little warmth and love. And if you think I'm the best looking campus chaplain you've ever had, no. Yes! I would give you all free tuition for this quarter if I could, but I can't. I would do it. But I don't have any budget. But know in my heart, I will be praying extra for you. No. We've had some challenging things, some things that, man, is powerful, and things that maybe we like to stuff away, but it came out. And some of you, that might have come out and you weren't ready for it. Maybe some things you're going through personally. If you've been challenged, if it's kind of triggered some things in you, or anything like that, or you want prayer or wisdom or whatever we can give you, know that our team, Spiritual Care, is here for you. Our offices are over in the student pavilion. If you go eat at the Cap and you turn this way, we're right through those doors. Or you see us walking around, please take advantage of us, because that's what we do together. Don't walk alone through your time at Loma Linda. That's what we live for, is to live and help you journey through life, which is very challenging right now. Just a reminder, I don't know how many of you have been able to. I know you're students, so time is worth more than money to you. If you have been able to go to the evening programs that Ty and David have been doing, and unbelievable, at 6:30 in the evenings all this week, there'll be another one tonight too. And then come to that, but Friday, we in Week of Renewal here, but they're still going on here at University Church with Friday programs, practices helping to lead out. There's stuff going on for the weekend. So it's a rich opportunity. Grab what you can. And now I want to give you something that's better than everything I offered you before. If you can just take a moment, I want you to do this. I want you to breathe in, but don't let go till I, wait. I want you to breathe in and hold it till I tell you breathe out, okay? Let's do it. Ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. And close your eyes. Father, stillness is almost shocking for us. And the quiet is so loud. Many times we live just lives of going and hearing and doing and saying. And though we gripe about it, sometimes we like it because when we're still, the things we're trying to stuff away pop out. The fears, the anxieties, just stuff. And God, of all the things you could say to us, you said, be still and know. Be still and know that I'm God. Because you are not a God of rush and hurry and chaos and anxiety and fear and anger. You're a God of love. And love speaks gently and deeply. For each person here, you want to speak to them in a deeply personal, intimate way that you don't talk to any of the rest of us. And may they hear you. Through the music, through our prayers, through our speaker today, David, as he opens up truths. Help us just to be. And for having done that, we will be well today, because where you are, we're blessed. Amen.
I'll invite you to stand with me again this morning. It seemed like that was a good thing for us yesterday. Song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, oh, we live for you. Sing holy, holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder, show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, oh, we live for you, Jesus. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, oh, we live for you. Sing holy, holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder, show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my and I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Let's sing. To be near me, Jesus, be near. Be near me, Jesus, be near. It's the prayer of my life. Won't you answer when you hear? Be near me, Jesus, be near. When the waves that are washing over me are much more than I can stand, and I know my boat is sinking, my feet won't touch the sand. When the mountain that's in front of me seems too high for me to climb, and I cannot say for certain that victory is mine. Be near me, Jesus, be near. Be near me, Jesus, be near. It's the prayer of my life. Won't you answer when you hear? Be near me, Jesus, be near. When the light that I've been looking for seems to flicker in the night, and I'm searching for the answer, but I just can't get it right. Be near me, Jesus, be near. Be near me, Jesus, be near. It's the prayer of my life. Won't you answer when you hear? Be near me, Jesus, be near. When the chaos that surrounds me makes it hard to hear your voice, and I'm listening for the stillness, but all I hear is noise. Oh no, be near me, Jesus, be near. Be near me, Jesus, be near. It's the prayer of my life. Won't you answer when you hear? Be near me, Jesus, be near. It's the prayer of my life. won't you answer when you hear? Be near me, Jesus, be near. Oh, so good. So good. Sing, he is jealous for me. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions, eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. He is jealous. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions, eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. And oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. We are his portion, and we are his portion, and he is our prize, drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If his grace is an ocean, we're all sinking, and heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss. My heart turns violently inside of my chest, and I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Sing that again. He loves. He loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Once more, he loves. He loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. We sing it again. How he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Jesus, we're grateful for reminders of your love for us everywhere. Remind us this morning to look for them. Open our eyes. Help us to see you at work in our world, in our life. We pray this in your precious name. Amen.
All right, thanks, Elia, Gerald, and KC. Can we give them a hand? That was great. Absolutely awesome. All right, good morning, Loma Linda. Great to be here. That was a rather muted good morning, but I don't have time to chastise you. I just want to say that if you have been coming to the evening meetings, they've been great, and I don't just say that because I've been a part of them, but last night's presentation by Jeffrey was just phenomenal. And Ty will be back on tonight at 6:30. Ty, what are you talking about tonight? The resurrection. Talking about the resurrection tonight. We would be delighted to have you. Tomorrow, Ty and I will be here, same time, same place, but we will be team teaching the fifth and final presentation in your chapel series, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we progress. We've got quite a little bit of information I want to cover here today, and so I'm going to get stuck right into this and kind of remind us where we've come from. It'd be great if that clicker would work. What did you do last night, Ty, to make it work? There we go. All right. So our presentation here is a follow-up from really everything that has happened so far. Ty's first presentation on an intelligent atheism, and then my presentation on an intelligent faith. Ty yesterday, which I thought was absolutely masterful. That was such a powerful and persuasive presentation. I told Ty that repeatedly yesterday on God and evil. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to pick up with those 5 evidences that I was speaking about the other day as we continue to make a positive case for not just the existence of God, but the goodness of God. And I think you're going to find today's presentation really intellectually stimulating, and I'm just absolutely giddy with what we're going to be talking about this morning. We've already talked briefly about Isaiah chapter 1, verse 18, where God here says, come, let us reason together. Some translations, let us argue it out. Present your case. Let's have a conversation, and we are seeking to do that, to come to interact and understand the rational case, the persuasive case that can be made for God's existence and for His goodness. We've been moving through these 5 words, which are basically just placeholders for an argument. The last time we were together, we talked about the nature of time and looked at the cosmological argument. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, and therefore it has a cause, and that cause cannot itself be caused by some previous cause. We talked about the nature of life and how the best explanation of life is that it proceeds from a living thing. We can affirm, if we want to, it is an article of faith, that life emerged from matter and motion and that the materialist view of the universe is true. You're welcome to believe that, and lots of people do, but it is a belief that requires no less faith, and I would say even more faith, than just saying that God created the heavens and the earth. So what we're going to do now is we're going to enter into the next 2. I had originally planned to do all 3, mind, ought, and love, in this session, but Ty and I are going to roll into tomorrow's session our final evidence, which is the evidence of love, which I'll get to in just a bit. So let's talk about the nature of the mind. The mind, okay? The best explanation of mind, this is my thesis here, the best explanation of the origin and the existence of what we call the minds, or our mind, or minds generally, is a mind, capital M, mind. We know, of course, that the mind, whatever exactly it is seated in the brain, that there is some significant relationship between the brain and the mind. They are not synonymous. The brain, of course, is impossibly complex, consisting of some 100 to 200 billion neurons in an adult brain, thousands of connections per neuron, and there are, and this is an astonishing idea that we're going to explore here in a moment, more potential neuronal connections in the human brain than there are electrons in the universe. We are told by physicists and others that the atomic density of the universe is that there are approximately, and I don't know how they know this, but they do, 10 to the 80th power electrons in the universe. That's the total number of electrons in the known universe, and that's an astonishingly large number, of course, but the complexity within the adult human brain is even greater. We are told that there are, with potential neuronal connections and pathways and brain states, some 10 to the 121st power connections or pathways, unique pathways in the brain. I called my good friend Dr. Anthony Bosman yesterday, who's a mathematician, to make sure that I was understanding the nature of the relationship between the size of the number 10 to the 80th and 10 to the 121st power. And basically, this is it, and I'll try to say this correctly. I called him yesterday to make sure I was saying it right. The difference in the size of those numbers is the difference between 121 and 80. And what that looks like is, that of course would be 41. This means that 10 to the 121st power is 10 to the 41st power times larger than 10 to the 80th power. So it is an incomprehensibly not just a large number, but a larger number than the electrons in the known universe, which is, of course, astonishingly large. So we can then safely conclude, without any hesitation or equivocation, that the most complex thing that we know of in the universe is the human brain. Right? The human brain is fantastically, incomprehensibly complex, and this brings us right up against something that is known in philosophy as the mind-body problem. At some point, we know that this incredible complexity, neurological complexity, physiological complexity that makes up the human brain gives way to the mind. The mind is seated in the brain, but it's not identical to the brain. And we know, for example, that a brain can be weighed, it can be measured, we know its approximate size, its volume, all of this is fine and good. But the mind is a different thing, and it's not just a different thing, it's a different kind of thing. And the mind-body problem in philosophy tries to understand that bridge, or to use a mild pun, that synapse between the brain and the mind. What exactly is the mind? A deft and skillful neurosurgeon would be able to go into the human brain to perform a variety of operations. But the neurosurgeon would never know who your celebrity crush was. The neurosurgeon wouldn't know what your passwords are. They would have access to your brain, but not your mind. Your mind is who you are. It's your sense of identity. It's your sense of self. It's your hopes. It's your dreams. It's your fears. It's your anxiety. So we know that there is an interface between the mind and the brain, but the nature of that interface is not understood. It's a philosophical problem, not merely a medical problem. And so, reverting back to Plantinga, who I quoted in my first presentation, now this is a fairly complicated idea, but I'm going to respect your intelligence because many of you would be far more intelligent than me, especially in this field. So I need you, and I know you get a lot of high-powered, difficult-to-grasp information in your various and sundry classes. This is a big idea, so I'm going to respect your intelligence here and think that you can follow along with the point that Plantinga is making. This is what he says. This is again in his book, Where the Conflict Really Lies. He says, according to materialism, that is that the universe is just matter in motion, according to materialism, mental properties are determined by physical properties. And indeed, according to reductive materialism, that is just that all there is matter, mental properties just are physical properties. And then he makes a really persuasive case. He says, as we go up the evolutionary scale, we find neural structures with greater and greater complexity. Okay, this is easy to sort of understand and formulate in your mind. He says near one end of the scale, for example, we find bacteria. Presumably, he says, they have no beliefs at all. So we're sort of looking at the neural structures, and he says, we'll go at one end of the scale, bacteria. Presumably, bacteria don't believe anything. They don't have preferences or dreams or hopes. Perhaps they do, but he says, presumably they don't. At the other end of the scale, there are human beings, us, who have a rich and varied store of beliefs and whose brains contain many billions of neurons connected in complex and multifarious ways so that the number of different possible brain states is more than astronomical. That's the point we were making earlier. That it is astonishingly, incomprehensibly complex. Now, this is where he gets to the gravamen of his argument. And the idea is that as you rise in the evolutionary scale, as you go through more and more complex neural structures, at a certain point, he says, there arises something we can properly call a belief, something that is either true or false. At a certain level of complexity, these neural structures start to display belief content, and the question I want to ask is this: what is the likelihood, given evolution and naturalism, that the content thus arising is in fact true? He asks another question. In particular, what is the likelihood, given naturalism and evolution, that the content associated with our neural structures is true? What is the likelihood, given naturalism and evolution, that our cognitive faculties are reliable, thereby producing mostly true beliefs? The implied answer is we have no reason to believe, given evolution and naturalism, that we should trust our own cognitive faculties. That rationality disappears and effectively becomes just the chattering, the firing of synapses in our brain. This is a fascinating argument, and this is basically the argument that he makes in his 2011 book, published again by Oxford University Press, in which he says that there is an actual undermining of rationality, yea, of the entire scientific enterprise, if we go down the pathway of materialism. Where does the mind come from, and what exactly is the mind? Well, we know it's connected to the brain, and we know that it is related to the incredible complexity of the brain, but again, they are not synonymous. Well, that raises the question then, what is the mind and where does the mind come from? And my thesis here today, and not my thesis, it's not unique to me, but the biblical thesis is that the best explanation of minds, identity, character, disposition, personality, attitude is the original mind, and that we bear His image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come at you, boom, 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 quick, smart, with several different theoretical physicists that will just sort of help us to understand this idea and to get our minds wrapped around a really big idea. Notice our minds wrapped around it, not our brains. John Polkinghorne, a theoretical physicist, says materialism destroys rationality. That's Plantinga's point. He says thought is replaced by electrochemical neural events. Two such events cannot confront each other in rational discourse. How could they? Because what's going on in my brain is not what's going on in your brain. How can rational interaction or discourse take place if all it is neural events? They can neither be right, neither are they right or wrong, they simply happen. The very assertions, says Polkinghorne, of the reductionist himself are nothing but blips in the brain. The world of rational discourse dissolves into the absurd chattering of firing synapses. Quite frankly, he says, that cannot be right, and none of us believes it to be so. We know that that view of reality, that materialist, reductionistic understanding cannot be right. We don't live that way and we don't believe it. Einstein, when in fewer syllables and more eloquently, simply said it like this. And Einstein had a number of quotes that were similar to this. I'll give you two of them. He said famously, the most incomprehensible thing about the universe is precisely that it is comprehensible. Now, here's another version of that quotation. The eternal mystery of the world, Einstein observed, is the comprehensibility of the universe. The fact that it is comprehensible, he says, is basically a miracle. What does that mean? Basically, we need two things in order for the universe to be comprehensible. Number one, we need a universe that is conducive to intelligent, self-reflective life. We need that. So we need to have a universe. But the other thing that we need is equally important and equally unlikely. We need to have minds that are sufficiently complex and brains that are sufficiently complex that can apprehend the unlikeliness of the universe in which we inhabit. That is the crucial point that Einstein is making here. It's not just that the universe is amazing, it's that we know it's amazing. Dr. Eugene Wigner, who won the Nobel Prize in 1962 for his work in, again, physics and mathematics, said this: the normal usefulness of mathematics is something bordering on the mysterious. There is no rational explanation for it, he says. The miracle of the appropriateness of the language of mathematics for the formulation of the laws of physics is a wonderful gift which we neither understand nor deserve. Now, this comes from an amazing essay, which if you enjoy the interface of sort of religion and science and math, you should read it. It's a great essay he wrote in 1960 called On the Unreasonable Effectiveness of Mathematics in the Physical Sciences, or the Natural Sciences. His point is basically this: wow, the universe presents us with a kind of intelligent scaffolding. And isn't it just a happy coincidence, yea, a gift, that the laws of physics and the language of math line up in such a way that we can have cell phones and we can have bridges and we can send rockets to the moon? He says the universe doesn't have to be this way, but it's like it's made for rational, intelligent inquiry. That the entire notion of deductive reasoning and the scientific enterprise, it's like we were made to learn. We were made to understand the world around us. And thus, Dr. Owen Gingerich, our final physicist here, he's actually an astronomer, he observed, I am personally persuaded that a super intelligent creator, and I've just put here so you don't miss it, that is a mind, exists beyond and also within the cosmos, and that the rich context of congeniality, that word means friendliness, the rich context of congeniality shown by our universe, permitting and encouraging the existence of self-conscious life, is part of the Creator's design and purpose. Here's what he's saying. In the words of C.S. Lewis, surely it ought to raise our suspicions, not only that the universe is astonishing, but that we know it's astonishing. And that's what I've got here on the slide. It's not only that the universe is astonishing, yes, beautiful, yes, vast, yes, and vanishingly unlikely, it's that we know it is. If the highest level of neurological development that was on planet Earth right now was, say, a horse, the universe would still be as amazing as it is, but the horses would be none the wiser. The point that Einstein is making is not just that the universe is incredible, it's that we know it's incredible, and surely this ought to raise our suspicions about the nature of reality. The psalmist said this thousands of years before. He said, when I consider, when I think, when I imagine, when I reflect, when I ruminate. With what do we reflect and ruminate? Our minds. The psalmist said, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon, the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them, and human beings that you care for them? When I consider, there's not a person in this room who hasn't at some point in their life, and probably most of us many times in our lives, looked up at the stars, the vastness, the beauty, the sublimity of it all, and thought, what's going on up there and out there? That's what the point the psalmist is making. And the point is, of course, that we have minds that are capable of asking these kinds of questions, and thank God for the marching forward of the great scientific enterprise, not only asking the questions, but beginning to get answers to some of these questions. So, I conclude by saying again, the best explanation of the origin and existence of minds is a mind, as distinct from a brain. Now let's get to this idea of ought, very quickly here. The word ought, of course, we can use it in a sentence. You ought to be honest and a person of integrity when it comes to your work. You ought not to cheat and plagiarize. You understand that in the word ought is a moral imperative. It's not just describing what is, it's describing what ought to be, what should be. And in philosophy, this is what's called the is-ought problem. A Scottish philosopher, David Hume, basically said we cannot derive an ought, a moral imperative, from an is, a description of reality as it presently is. So I want to try and demonstrate to you something that you already know. And this is the point that Ty and I are going to make tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to it. Most of what we're telling you here is stuff you already know, whether or not you know it. And that's the crucial point. In his amazing book, the brothers Karamazov, Fyodor Dostoevsky puts these words in the mouth of one of the main protagonists in the book, Dmitry Karamazov. If God does not exist, everything is permitted. Exactly correct. Because if there is no transcendent anchor to morality, to oughtness, well, then everything is permissible, and who is to say that one thing is better than another or that one thing is superior to another? In the Bible, we find this language. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 45, God says, be holy because I am holy. And I want to hone in on the word that I put here in blue, because. God's invitation here is to act like Him, to behave like Him. The word holiness here, of course, means many different things. Difference, it comes from the Hebrew word kadesh. But for our purposes, it means behaving in morally upright and virtuous ways. And God says, you were made in my image, you were crafted in my image, you should be like me. You are my sons, you are my daughters, behave like me, think like me, live like me. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, love your neighbor just like you love yourself. I am the Lord. Behave like this, because there is, again, a transcendent anchor that connects us to reality as it actually is. That's why we called the series Religion. This is the way the universe is. Now, I want to say again here very briefly, none of these arguments, time, life, mind, ought, are in and of themselves conclusive. Even in aggregate, the composite argument is not conclusive. They are, I think, highly suggestive, bordering on, for me, very much persuasive. But tomorrow, Ty and I will present a series of arguments that culminate in an argument that is actually conclusive. Conclusive. In other words, not merely belief based on evidence, but knowledge. You can know something, and we'll share that with you tomorrow night. So these arguments are suggestive and persuasive. Tomorrow we'll look at conclusive. Part of bearing God's image, as Ty mentioned yesterday, is our call to increase love, mercy, and joy, and decrease evil, cruelty, and pain. You probably believe that. I imagine that the vast majority of people, especially at a school like Loma Linda, that go into the medical field are not only going in for the various financial and professional incentives that are available. You want to help people. Am I wrong or am I right? You want to decrease pain. You want to decrease suffering. You want to increase life and happiness. Exactly. And in so doing, you are bearing the image of God. We are put in the world not just to merely walk blithely through it in self-interest, building up our own empire and our own, portfolio of meaning. No, we are here to bless others, to bear the image of God in this particular capacity. Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 22, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is just like it, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And then this point, in terms of the moral scaffolding of the universe, all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments, and the commandments are to love. You were made to love and be loved. In our 5 points, my 5 arguments that I'm making here, time, life, mind, ought, love is our 5th and final argument that we'll get to tomorrow, which again, I'm tempting you here. I'm trying to whet your appetite a little bit. All of these arguments are, I believe, persuasive. Tomorrow's argument will be conclusive. You could go out of here tomorrow knowing something that you do not now know, something that could change the entire course and direction of your life. All right, I'll stop advertising tomorrow. Let's close this up. Let's wrap this up. So Lewis presents us with a scenario that some of us in this room might have actually faced, and every one of us in this room has contemplated before. He says, suppose you hear a cry for help from a man in danger. You hear somebody, they're crying out, help, help. Lewis observes you will probably feel 2 desires when you hear that sincere cry for help. One is a desire to give help, right? That will be your knee-jerk reflexive reaction, like, oh, there's somebody in need, I should help. He says that's the first reaction you will feel. The other will be a desire to keep out of danger. Now follow his argument here, it's very interesting. He says, but you will find inside you, in addition to these 2 impulses, the impulse to assist and the impulse to stay out of danger, a third thing which tells you what? What's that word right there? You ought. A third thing will be happening when you have the opportunity to help and the capacity to help. Something will be in you telling you that you ought to follow the impulse to help and suppress the impulse to run away. Now watch what he does here. This is brilliant. Now this thing that judges between 2 instincts, that decides which should be encouraged, cannot itself be either of those 2 impulses. You might as well say that the sheet of music which tells you at a given moment to play one note on the piano and not another is itself one of the notes on the keyboard. He said, no. The moral law tells us the tune we have to play. Our instincts are the keys. We know what is the right thing to do in a given situation. Whether or not we do it is up to us. We are not compelled. We are not determined. It is not necessary, strictly speaking, that we do this. But every one of us in this room knows the moral impulse from the inside out. You don't need a preacher to tell you. You don't need a teacher to tell you. You don't need C.S. Lewis or a philosopher to tell you that we all have felt the moral impulse to behave in a certain way when we were presented with 2 options. The option to help and assist or the option to stay out of trouble. Now, with that in mind, I want to tell you about something that happened August 2nd, 2005. Air France Flight 358 was landing at the Toronto Pearson International Airport, and because of rain and other factors, the plane overshot the runway, went off the end of the runway, and immediately was on fire. Now, this happened, as you can see in this photo here, right next to a major road in Toronto. You can see the plane crashes here, and it happened very close. Let me just go back a slide here. So you can see here how close the people are to the flight, to this crash. There were 309 people on board, and almost immediately there were flames at the plane. Now, this is the astonishing thing. And rather than just telling you what happened, I'm going to read to you what happened from a journalist that wrote the next day or 2 in the paper. He says, eyewitness accounts vary. Some people are said to have panicked, others to have stayed calm. This is inside of the plane. Passing motorists pulled off the road and hurried toward the burning jet. Okay, nobody would, in their right mind, just run toward a burning jet for enjoyment or for interest. No. Only one thing would impel you to run toward a burning jet, and that is the impulse, as Lewis described, to do what you ought to do, what you know you should do, and what is the right thing to do. Dozens of motorists hurried toward the burning jet to help any survivors. Imagine, you're on the interstate there, all of a sudden you see a plane come in, you're driving, it slides off, it erupts in flames. Do you say, oh, I don't have time, I've got to get to my meeting? No, people pulled over. They pulled over, ran out of their car, and raced toward the burning jet. Many eyewitnesses confirm this. Of the 8 emergency exits, 2 were deemed unsafe to use, and on a third and a fourth, the slides didn't work. Nonetheless, in a chaotic situation, hundreds of strangers coordinated sufficiently to evacuate a small space through 4 exits in less than a couple of minutes before the Airbus was consumed by flames, and all 309 people that were on board lived. Now, here's my question. We can take the view of Yuval Harari that Ty quoted yesterday, or Richard Dawkins, or any others, and we can ask the question, are these people heroes or not? See, the world that I live in, and the world that I believe that you live in, and I think you know this, is that anybody that would purposefully, willingly jeopardize their lives for another, those people are heroes. That's the very definition of love. Jesus said, greater love has no man than this, and a man would lay down his or her life for his friends. This is not merely some evolutionary, quirk of the brain whereby we're trying to preserve those that are like us. You would know that the chances of you knowing somebody on any given aircraft are vanishingly unlikely. So you're not running there to save your aunt or your uncle or your children. You don't know these people. And yet there is in you the desire to do to them what you would want done to you if you were in that situation. And that's what Lewis says. The first thing to get clear about Christian morality or biblical morality is that in this department, Christ did not come to teach any brand new morality. Jesus didn't teach us anything that we didn't already know. The golden rule of the New Testament, do as you would be done by, is a summing up of what everyone at bottom had always known to be right. We know that's the right thing to do. We know that there is inbuilt to the moral structure and scaffolding of the universe an oughtness. An oughtness. Well, in a materialist world, where does that oughtness come from? Well, there is no place, not only to, you don't have oughtness, you don't even have a mind. All you can get in a materialist world is a brain. And a brain does not give rise to all of the great and glorious beauty and majesty and wonder that we see in the world around us. And so as we're beginning to make our composite case here, our positive case for the goodness of God and the existence of God, we've discussed the issues of time, life, mind, ought, all of which are, I believe, hugely persuasive. But tomorrow we will present an argument, a series that will actually be one argument in 4 parts that is not merely persuasive, but conclusive, and I hope you will join us. Let's have prayer. Father in heaven, bless us as we go throughout the day. As we are faced with the opportunity to do what we ought or what we ought not, may we resolve to listen to that third impulse, to respond as Jesus himself would respond, is our prayer in his name. Let everybody say, amen.